Okay, so this is about our third session. We have come up with more of a plan. I have liked this hey approach for Henry to come into my space and have a positive experience with me as a weird thing happening to her and to just get used to a human presence. This video is basically going to be about the same stage as the second session. I think a little bit better in some regard and then not so much in others. So I just really want to emphasize the inconsistency, I guess I should say, about her reaction to me. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it as just because it goes really well the first time doesn't mean it's going to go really well the second time. Like there's going to be these ups and downs before it levels off. So again, I'm just has the hay in the bucket and I'm feeding it from my hand. A couple things you'll note from my hand is I'm moving my hand closer to my body. So it's encouraging her to come closer into my space. I'm also switching which hand I'm using to get her used to kind of a mirror situation. One, you need to do everything on both sides of the horse. It's been said before that they can't translate a thing very well between the both sides. I don't know how true that is, but just in case, go ahead and just mirror your actions on both sides. And then I'm also moving away from her space so she can move into mine. So it's again her approach. And that's really a lot of what I wanted to think about was her approaching me and not me approaching her. Because I don't necessarily want to force her into a situation, so I felt like that made it so it was more of a choice on her end. I'm going to slow down the next portion because she says no. And again, she's very clear about her no's. She is saying there's something going on I don't like. We're either raising threshold where I'm pressuring her. I go ahead and move off. I think I moved off a little too slow, but this is just going to be how long it can take, I guess just to say. I really want to emphasize that there's a lot of waiting. I'm not very good with waiting. I can't stand still very well. I don't want to say I get bored, but like I need something to be active. And again, she's still mad at me. She's still saying no. Very clear about the no. And this is me being like, do you want some hay? Do you want something from me? I'm looking at this video. It's really funny because I'm just like, back up, back up. She's telling you to back up. Go ahead and back up. And some people would say like, don't let the horse win. But like at the same time, that's not where I'm coming from. I'd like this to be a two-way communication street because I think that's really important that she feels like she can communicate and her communication will be heard. And I get it. Like at the end of the day, I'm a human. She's a horse. One of us has got to win. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's going to have to be me just because of whatever reason. Could be because of selfish reasons. I want to do this. We can communicate. Why aren't you interested in doing that? Why don't you want to do that? Why aren't you doing it? I'll take your feelings into consideration, but I don't know. I think that's where I kind of struggle with positive reinforcement. The underlying, like, it always has to be a choice. And I agree to that to an extent, but I think I'm too selfish for that. And this is just a lot of back and forth. So you can see I can get a good bit closer than I could the last session. And I like that. This is me kind of almost using that breadcrumb method, right? Where I drop some hay to her instead of it from my hand because she has not been a fan of my hand. There's been times at this point where she's accidentally touched my hand getting hay or something, and she reacts pretty negatively. This is probably like humanizing her, but I feel like she thinks I've tricked her. And I have in a way, and I know that's not right. This is me going, okay, I do like that breadcrumb method. So we're going to go ahead and feed into a pan. I like feeding into a pan for various tricks. Again, this is me kind of looking back saying I did this a little too late. She's really not crazy about her hand. So I'm going to give her an option without my hand. And I didn't do that earlier, and I think I should have. Because the point is to make this as successful as possible. And by breaking down these small steps, you're more likely to have success. A lot of the communication is just breaking it down into these really, really tiny bite-sized things to say, how can I easily get one step? Is it a look? Is it a lean? Is it, it's not, oh, she's walking up to me and eating from her hand. It's, she's looking at me. Okay, success. Next time. Oh, she takes a step forward. Okay, success. I think that's a lot of it. And I think it does take a lot of patience, because I really want to get to the point where I can untangle her mane, where I can brush her down, because she smells horrible at this point. But it's a lot of patience that I don't think I was well aware before I started this, which sounds really silly, right? But I also didn't really know I was impatient until this. So anyway, that's just a personal journey thing. And I think that's what I really appreciate from this whole experience, was how much I learned about myself. I don't think I've really had a lot of opportunities to learn about myself. So this was one of the ways that really learned a lot. Anyway, this, again, you can tell from the session, is just a lot of back and forth about trying to engage, trying to see what she likes. She obviously is no longer engaged. And I talked about it a little bit in my last session, but making the session short and giving a break in between, I think I should have done. Even that little tiny break, I feel like was useful. I should have done a little bit more, but, give her 5 minutes or something like that. There's a lot of things happening, and I don't think I appreciated how much mental load and capacity and thinking and just a lot of mental stuff that she went through that's tiring. I don't think I appreciated that enough, where I would give her breaks. And again, there's just back and forth where she'll engage, and then she won't, and then she will, and then she won't. She says no, and then she comes back. So I can see where I was confused, because I feel like she's giving me mixed signals, which is silly to say, because she's actually giving me clear signals in the sense of, I don't like that, but I really want to, but I don't like that. And it sounds very mixed, but at the same time, I think looking back on it and having the hindsight and the knowledge to be she just needed smaller steps. She needed breaks. And there is going to be inconsistency before you get somewhere, right? Again, it's a lot of back and forth, but that's okay. Once again, I would like to remind everyone, I'm not a trainer. I'm not a professional. This is just my experience of what I did with my Mustang. If you're interested in this, this is not a how-to guide. This is a watch it and make your own conclusions with your professional support network. Also have a plan, because as you saw in my first session, I had a plan, changed the plan, and now the second and third session here, I'm having more of a plan. But I think, going a little too fast. I'm changing the criteria on her fairly unexpectedly. I'm almost not giving her warning as to when I change things. And this is where I kind of mess up a little bit. I go ahead and touch her, and she did not like that. Because what have I said multiple times already? She doesn't like my hand. And then I just put my hand with her. That was so mean of me, where I completely just bypassed warning signs and just was like, oh, this will work well. No, she wasn't as engaged as she could have been before that moment. I changed the criteria on her. This is me just being a little bit more relaxed about it, and then trying to kind of, I guess, end it on a good note, but also be like, look, I'm not going to do it again. We're just going to keep moving on. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, I scared her. I think a common training method other people would use would to send the horse around, to say you say no, that you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. And you send them away, a lot of pressure. And that works for some people, but I felt like, because that was my fault, it wasn't anything malicious on her end, that I was almost just like, I'm sorry, which again is not, I think, some people would choose not to do that, and that's okay. But I just wanted her to understand that just because it happened once and she gave me a reaction doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. So this is me just like, look, I'm not going to do it. When my hand is around you, it doesn't mean that, if that makes you uncomfortable. She clearly said no. And I wasn't listening. So this is me ending the session because I'm pretty mad at myself because I pushed too fast, because I got impatient, and I'm just beating myself up pretty good. But again, third session down.